Nobody Wants to Die has come out of nowhere to become one of my favorite games of 2024. You are Detective James Kara in the year 2329. A future noir adventure set in an enormous New York, you will take an off-the-books case from your boss while recovering from a severe accident. It's like Altered Carbon meets cyberpunk with a weird 1930s aesthetic. An incredible soundtrack, solid writing, and excellent voice work carry this narrative adventure title to heights few studios have ever hit with their first title. Please allow me to explain why in the XboxEra review of Nobody Wants to Die. The game takes place in a gothic noir style future New York. It's really cool, really big. There's lots of flying cars that are modeled like something you'd have found between the 20s and 40s. Everyone smokes, drinks, and the world's kinda gone to shit. The elite have created a technology that grants seeming immortality. It is the ability to transfer a human consciousness to another's body and has led to a forced insurance program. You either pay it off by the age of 21 or your body is taken away for the elite to play with while your mind is stuck in a bank with an enormous fee to pay if you ever want to get out. The game starts with a murder mystery about what is going on with one of the city's elites as you come across a gruesome crime scene. Using innovative mechanics, you'll solve those crimes with future tech that allows you to reconstruct exactly what happened. The aptly named Reconstructor will enable you to use bits of evidence to slowly puzzle piece reality back together. There's also a portable X-ray that can show you bullet trails, and the occasional gameplay curveball thrown in to keep things feeling fresh. A full playthrough took me roughly 5 hours, and I was engrossed during every moment. This big, sweeping orchestral soundtrack full of saxophones, trumpets, and beautiful arrangements lets you get your inner Sam Spade on as you dig deeper and deeper into the political intrigue of this future hellscape. The main mechanic in most of the main levels of Nobody Wants to Die is said Reconstructor. It has various modes, typically starting with a reconstruction that will have a short timeline you can scrub through. As you find more clues, you'll gain access to more of the timeline's events, with anomalies being this little yellow line that you'll need to dial up correctly. The timeline mechanic works with the left and right triggers and allows you to fast forward or rewind reality, quote unquote, in real time. Going back and forth through the moment a bar exploded or a rich businessman got his brains blown out is as satisfying as it is disturbing. There's no direct action gameplay to be found, though at certain moments your technically not on active duty detective will pull out his gun. Whether you choose to shoot or not is up to you, and every decision you can make will matter. Outside of the detective sessions, you'll use the D-pad to make choices during conversations. Those choices you make really matter for what choices you'll have at the game's climax, and if you, the player, can't figure things out as you go along, you may end up being locked out of the game's only happy ending. Between the choice system, detective tools, and first-person immersion, this is one of my favorite narrative games of ever? I felt more influential than you normally do in them. You didn't need twitch shooting skills, just your brain. But the ability to walk around everywhere in first person helped make it feel like I was in this living, breathing future New York. And one of the best parts of the game is the developer's ability to make it feel like it is this enormous future metropolis full of flying cars and millions of people. Sure, if you poke at the seams, you realize how most of the play areas are actually very small, and those cars and people in the far distance are just high quality enough to not stand out unless you really stare at and zoom in on them. It is a beautiful game, running with either a 60 FPS targeted performance mode or a higher fidelity, though more molasses feeling quality mode that aims for 30 FPS. I stuck with performance mode for my playthrough, and I cannot overstate how impressed I am by a smaller dev putting something of this quality out with their debut project. While some of the, if not most of the human models and faces look a little lower fidelity, the environments were consistently stunning. Whether you're inside a massive building, in your tiny apartment, or flying around New York, it never failed to make my jaw drop at least a few times per level. The game's soundtrack help gives that sense of a lived-in, surreal noir cityscape. It sounds like a full-on orchestra with a ton of brass, piano, and a grand style that you rarely get in media today, let alone video games. There are two main characters in the game, your detective, who you control, and his over-the-comms liaison, Sarah. The actors do a wonderful job making these characters feel believable despite the story going in some weird places, as this is a body-swapping effed up world and you're nowhere near the top of the food chain. That acting and writing help make that feel real. You're this low-ranking cop recovering from a massive injury and a liaison who cannot truly fight this world's power structure. You're just doing what you can. Wrapping things up, Nobody Wants to Die is an incredible experience. Engaging detective gameplay, an incredible soundtrack, and a fascinating noir yarn come together to create one of my favorite games in a long time.